down to the operating room. "We'll make you look normal again." She repeats the phrase in her head as she watches the ceiling lights flash above her, being wheeled along the corridor. Normal. What is normal, she wonders, as they open a door and wheel her into a kind of anteroom where the anesthesiologist is waiting. Can I ever be normal again after this? Do I want to be? She is told to count to 10 as the anesthesiologist gently sticks something into the back of her hand. I'm counting away my life, she thinks, just before she blacks out. If I get through this, then I'm never going to waste another second. Whatever the odds, that's one thing I know. Chapter 1. Not bad for a drunken eBay purchase, Ellie McTavish. Fiona rested one hand lightly on the black leather-covered steering wheel of the silver Airstream motorhome as they cruised along a deserted Cornish road, adjusting the ancient radio with the other. Will you see if you can get it to pick up an FM station? If it even does that. Not sure if Cornwall has FM radio, Ellie muttered, frowning as she twisted the radio dial. All she could find, apart from static, was some local news station talking about farming, or an oldies station somewhere which seemed to be playing a Dolly Parton medley. Or phone signal, come to that. I know, brilliant, isn't it? A proper break. Just what you need. Fiona, though Ellie had only ever called her Fee in all the years they'd been friends, whistled happily to the faint strains of I Will Always Love You, returning both hands to the wheel. Maybe. Ellie stared out of the window at the miles and miles of fields around them, populated with the occasional distant hamlet. 3 or 4 houses at best, and that was it. You'd passed through before you knew it. Occasionally there was a pub or a post office come corner shop. And the further they drove into Cornwall, the stranger the place names got. Her favourite so far had been the village of Jolly Bottom and a hill tor signposted off the main road as Brown Willie. Fee's favourite was Compton Pauntsfoot, a perfect name for a cat, so she said. But that was much earlier in their drive down from London. Around Somerset, in fact, which seemed like a world away, even though it was itself pretty far into the West Country. In fact, Ellie had never been further southwest than Bristol before. She'd been born and raised in a featureless town in the middle of England, and gone to university in Oxford, before heading to London in her early 20s to begin her high-flying legal career with one of the top firms there. She hadn't had time for leisurely drives down to the seaside on the weekends. She was always working. And if she wasn't, there was always something. Skiing with her colleagues at the law firm in France or Switzerland, weddings, expensive girls' weekends in Dubai or New York or Paris, parties at her friends' houses in Kensington or Holland Park, where the champagne flowed, and if you didn't stay up drinking until the early hours, you were considered some kind of social deviant. Not just that, you were expected to be in the office by 7 in the morning the next day and finish at 10 at night. It wasn't that Ellie hadn't enjoyed that life, but she was ready to admit now, at the tender age of 37, that she was exhausted, and her body had finally said no to it all in a way that was difficult to ignore. They'd stopped in a nice inn the night before and enjoyed a pretty pleasant meal in the pub, though Fee wouldn't let her have a glass of wine. Not in your condition, she'd admonished Ellie. Healthy fruit juice is only for you, my girl. Ellie had protested. It wasn't like she was pregnant. But Fee was taking her job as road trip manager and general carer very seriously. The shiny silver Airstream motorhome had attracted a fair bit of attention so far, she had to admit. At the inn, named the Fare Thee Well somewhere in Devon, the manager had asked her about it, but she hadn't felt like talking much, leaving it to Fee to explain that they had decided on a road trip down to Cornwall for a while, though she'd avoided explaining why. They'd agreed that Ellie could tell people if she wanted to, but otherwise Fee wouldn't mention it. Since she'd found the lump in her breast, she'd spent every night staring up at the dark ceiling of her flat, with the worst-case scenarios running through her mind.